The success of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, despite the terrible start in which Sainz suffered damage to his car only minutes into FP1, underscored the need for changes in this event. And oh man, there are going to be plenty. Criticism from Verstappen, but also from Fernando Alonso, echoed really loudly in the paddock. And now the organisers are at a crossroads about the direction in which the Grand Prix needs to go in 2024. Will these potential changes improve or degrade one of the most expected race events on the calendar? I'm going to be honest, when Formula One builds up an event to the extent it did with this one, arguments advocating for the glitz and glamour in favour of the overall well-being and expansion of the championship lose their credibility if the on-track component, which is still considered by many as the core of this global phenomenon, fails to live up to expectations. And the Miami race serves as a prime example of this. Fortunately, Las Vegas not only lived up to the off-track hype, but also delivered on the racing front, as the event featured a huge amount of on-track action without descending into a chaotic, incident-filled, disastrous spectacle. And to my big surprise, overtaking proved to be much more manageable than many drivers had predicted. Before the weekend, all the unnecessary elements surrounding this race might have been eye-catching, but to a solid racing fan, they would have been exactly that, unnecessary. What would have genuinely concerned me was if by the end of the Grand Prix, the prevailing sentiment was that the entire event prioritised style over substance, and luckily that wasn't the case. If an event situated in the heart of one of the world's most renowned cities can contribute to making F1 more popular, then as long as the on-track racing remains thrilling, it constitutes a mutually beneficial outcome. The race from start to finish was of very high quality and very exciting throughout the field. The Verstappen-Leclerc incident at the first corner shuffled the running order and showed us a glimpse of how a race with an equal grid would look. The overtaking opportunities showcased that the glamour surrounding the new Vegas track is justified. However, one obvious issue highlighted over the weekend was the inadequacy of the regulations and their enforcement. The situation with Carlos Sainz receiving a 10-place penalty for damage beyond his or Ferrari's control seemed pretty absurd. Furthermore, the 5-second penalty for pushing another car off at the first corner, potentially gaining an advantage in tyre management, raised eyebrows. And the sequence of events involving damage to the front wing, a pit stop without correcting the issue, and returning to the track in an illegal specification due to prescribed wing dimensions left me a little bit perplexed. Despite these concerns, Charles Leclerc's performance, earning him the fan-voted Driver of the Day award, stood out, and while he'd likely trade the award for a race win, his excellent drive and adept tyre management, particularly in the first stint, showcased Ferrari's prowess. Moreover, his sportsmanship during the post-race cool-down lap with Verstappen demonstrated his maturity, but although F1 is currently enjoying a sort of peak with teams and drivers delivering fascinating performances, the governing body risks lagging behind in rule implementation. The whole incomprehensibility surrounding the application of penalties definitely leaves spectators and viewers in the dark, exceeding even the controversy surrounding VAR in football. That's why clarity and consistency in rule enforcement are imperative here. Despite Las Vegas definitely over-delivering, there were some drivers who criticised the event even after the great race, and despite even Verstappen admitting it was okay to drive, Fernando Alonso, despite scoring Las Vegas Grand Prix points, had a criticism for the track and the feeling of cars around some of the slower speed corners, while in some sections of the strip circuit, where in the recent high-speed mould for street tracks, some of the corners around the sphere in particular was slow speed, with drivers largely unable to make any overtaking moves throughout that section of the track. Alonso spun at turn 1 and dropped to the rear of the field, pitting for repairs, but climbing up the order thanks to stopping early to run in the points. And even though the Aston Martin driver did finish in 9th place and is now level on 200 points with fellow Spanish driver Carlos Sainz heading to Abu Dhabi, he was left feeling the fun was taken out of driving at F1's newest circuit. There is not much fun to drive on this kind of circuit at 360 kilometers an hour with no grip, no visibility, and bouncing like hell, Alonso explained to the media. I know from the outside that the show maybe looks good, but these cars are not made to go around corners at 80 kilometers an hour. They are made to go to Suzuka, Barcelona, and Silverstone and maximize the potential. That is where we need to balance the championship and the calendar. It is what we are doing, but I don't think that this is the only way to go. We need to keep the traditional races as well, where the Formula One car can shine. While you may or may not agree with Alonso's comments, changes are indeed necessary in this event, and not only in the way the track is designed. The race itself happened on a Saturday evening at 10 p.m, leading to a schedule where media day activities on Wednesday, free practice on Thursday, and Friday's qualifying all took place late in the day. This late timing, coupled with the challenges of jet lag from travelling to the west of the United States, resulted in a considerable strain on F1 personnel, including drivers. Then we have the usual complaints about working hours and inconvenient schedules prevalent in F1, which were exasperated at the Las Vegas event, with many individuals visibly grappling with the effects of sleep deprivation and daytime fatigue. The decision to shift the second practice session from a midnight start to a 2:30 a.m. start on Friday, prompted by the water valve cover failure in FP1, only heightened the difficulties, and this adjustment meant that personnel carried a sleep deficit throughout the remainder of the weekend, adding an extra layer of challenge to an already demanding schedule. Another issue during the race happened during lap 3, when Norris experienced a loss of control of his McLaren while navigating the flat-out left-hander of turn 11, encountering a bump in the middle of the road, and the British driver spun and subsequently went backward into the outer wall, ultimately coming to a halt in the runoff area for turn 12 and after the incident. When asked what caused the crash, his team principal, Stella, said, "There's a bump in that place and you can see all cars sparkle when they go through this bump. I think the combination of the bump and the cold tyres might have surprised him. I think that bump, if we carry on racing at night, should be fixed because the tyres will always have a low grip and it will become a very tricky corner. Already during the weekend we saw cases of oversteering in that place, so independently of the timetable, we would strongly recommend that this bump be smoothed out." If changes are indeed to happen here, then they must work on the date on which the Grand Prix is held. The race comes at the end of the joint longest season in history as race 21 of 22 and forms an awkward double-header alongside Abu Dhabi that nobody in the paddock appreciates. And next year, Las Vegas kicks off a much-hated planned triple-header at the end of a 24-race calendar. From Vegas, F1 will travel to Qatar, then shuffle across to Abu Dhabi for the finale. If I'm being honest, changing the date probably won't happen, with Sergio Perez proposing it as a potential season finale in the future. Adjusting the start time might also pose challenging, considering the aim to engage European TV audiences in the early morning and embrace a boxing-style prize fight time slot in Las Vegas. However, if no modifications are made, the 2024 Las Vegas Grand Prix could prove even more challenging and unpopular to work at than the recent edition, and that would be unfortunate considering the widespread praise for the event's spectacle and the high quality of the race itself. At the end of the day, this Grand Prix proved to be exceptional, which did verify the potential of the event despite the acknowledged issues and legitimate frustrations, and it successfully showcased itself as a compelling sporting spectacle. While there are undeniable problems that still need resolution, the success of the race underscores the genuine promise of the event. F1, however, must address its missteps in communication and tone with the disappointed fans from Thursday's events. Additionally, there might be room to moderate the extremes in peripheral entertainment and reduce reliance on certain gimmicks. For instance, the somewhat awkward car ride to the podium ceremony detracted a bit from the usual post-race celebrations. Nevertheless, the enduring highlight of this week will likely be the race itself, and for all the right reasons. Despite the $500 million investment, extravagant hype, and controversy surrounding Thursday, the fact that the race emerged as the standout element is a significant triumph for F1. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you think the Las Vegas GP was a success, and do you agree with the potential changes?